Good morning, everyone. I'm Denise with Lighten Up Amputee. Today's subject is when people stare. It's been an interesting thing ever since I became an amputee in January 2018. Since I never knew an amputee before I became one. I didn't really know what to expect on all fronts. And I'm guessing many of you also may not know an amputee. Maybe that's why you're on this channel, to find out more. But it's been interesting. When I first became an amputee and got my first prosthetic in April 2018, it was very bulky, and because you're not really shrunk down yet after you have your amputation, you're very swollen the first 6 months. I mean, you still actually shrink down, a lot of fluid in there, and so the leg's very swollen, a lot of fluid. And then once you start wearing shrinkers, these socks that are really tight to start pushing fluid out of the residual limb, and then you get your prosthetic, then the prosthetic pushes more fluid out of the limb, and so eventually your limb gets down to kind of skin and bones, but essentially, and it shrinks down, which is why you end up your first couple years as an amputee going through a few legs, or really a few sockets, because you need new sockets to be made for the size that you are, because as you start to shrink down, then you have to keep adding socks, and that gets pretty bulky and can affect the fit of the prosthetic. So it's a little prosthetic lesson. Regarding stairs, I'm getting distracted. I haven't had enough coffee today. So regarding stairs, I was really more focused on walking, and so wasn't really paying attention to how people would perceive me. In addition, I'd already lost my hair from chemotherapy the previous 6 months from, when I got my amputation. So I was kind of used to people looking at me. So then I get my first prosthetic, and I'm pretty much almost hairless. I mean, I look like I had a buzz cut, and I now am an amputee. And so I have 2 reasons for people to stare at me. And it was super interesting. It was kind of like a social experiment, and really good for me to become more confident and not so insecure, and not worry about people, like what they think or anything. Mostly, most looks are curiosity. Some are of amazement. Sometimes it's these interesting looks, like they'll stare right at the prosthetic and not even look at me like I'm a human being. Those ones are really interesting. I think, what are they thinking? They're really literally looking at me like I'm an object. I guess that's how women must feel who have, a lot of cleavage, or I don't know, like anything that, people think that that is okay just to stare at and not look at you like you're human. That's what happens sometimes. So those stares are a little off-putting, and it's really more of a reflection of them than it is of me. So the stares are just interesting. In addition, kids, I love kids. They're so authentic, and they'll stare, but they'll look up at me as a human being and then look back down, trying to figure out, ooh, wait, what is that? Littler kids, really, and they can't stop staring, but you can see such innocence in their stare. They're really curious. And I'm always encouraging questions. So when the parent kind of looks down at their kid, no, don't stare. I'm like, no, it's okay. Do they have a question? And sometimes kids have the greatest questions. They, ask me, like, can I wear different shoes? And what does it feel like? Or they just want to stare at it or touch it. So those ones are really, really pretty cute. And I'll answer the shoe question in another video, because that's a really good question. So I had recently a really interesting experience. I'm used to stares. I'm used to getting, an occasional, I always get a look because I wear shorts when it's nice out, which I live in California, so it's always nice. So I don't mind showing off my prosthetic, and I've just come to own it and say, this is who I am. And I just have gotten really interesting comments from people who've pulled over when I'm out for my long walks and said, hey, you have inspired me. I'm going to go to the gym. Like, look at you. You have a prosthetic, you're an amputee, and you are out walking every day. And I feel completely lazy, and I need to get to the gym now that gyms are open in some areas, and or get out walking. But I had a really interesting experience. So now I've told you how the stairs kind of, again, because I did some emotional work on it, the stairs really generally don't bother me at all. I just more like, that's interesting how people react. And again, I really like the curiosity because I understand. I actually, when I see an amputee now, like when I'm walking through an airport and I see an amputee and I see their cool prosthetic, I stare at the prosthetic. I'm like, that is a really awesome prosthetic. It's nicer than mine. Where'd they get that? So that's how it's more like prosthetic envy. So, weird experience. Went to dinner with my family, outdoor restaurant. So we were social distancing and it was outside, on a lake, and it was for my daughter's graduation. It's a very affluent area there. It's an area in Westlake, California. And I needed to walk through the main part of the outdoor tables to get down to the lake to take pictures with my daughter. They could all walk down the grassy hill, but I had to actually walk through kind of the outdoor dining. And as we were walking through, my boyfriend and I, it was as if I don't know, I mean, it could be a couple things. It was as if I was a movie star and they were like, oh my gosh, it's so-and-so. I mean, except they weren't really staring at me. They were staring at my prosthetic. Every single table. It was like time stood still. Every single table was staring at me and trying to figure me out. I was dressed nicely. I mean, but I was rocking it. I was wearing shorts and I was, showing off my prosthetic because I don't feel like I have to hide it. And I think that's what it was. Every single table just absolutely could not stop staring at me. And when we got through the outdoor tables and down to the lake, I asked my boyfriend what he thought. And he said, I've been with you lots of places and have never experienced anything like that ever. He's like, that was so strange. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a bit of an anomaly because I don't feel like I have to hide it or put on pretenses. I'm just me. And I'd like to think that that's what triggered something for everyone in the restaurant, which is, mixture of, wow, I mean, I know, because I know that people can get caught up in, they don't want to go out if their hair doesn't look right or if they don't have makeup on, or for guys, if they don't like it when they're going bald. And so everyone's trying to hide something. And here I am just walking out in public with my prosthetic, showing and being proud of it and saying, this is who I am. I'm embracing me. And maybe that's what, I'd like to think that's what kind of triggered something for people. Some might be thinking, oh my gosh, I would never go out if I were her. And that's fine. They can think that because if they were an amputee, that's their choice. I like my choice. And I like to be able to have the freedom just to be me and the confidence. And so it works for me. So stairs are interesting. I always get them every single day. Most people are pretty discreet and you can tell it just throws off their world a little and they look and they're like, oh wait, she doesn't have a leg. But most times I feel it's more a look of, and I can feel intuitively that it's a look of, what's the word? Like I said, I have not had enough coffee today, of admiration. And I'll take that. And no matter what they're thinking, it doesn't matter because that's on them. As long as they don't do something overtly to try to hurt my feelings. Occasionally have had that, but then it's my feelings to deal with. But, and it's unfortunate when that happens. But overall, I feel like I get looks of support or looks of curiosity and looks of, wow, what's that like? How would I handle that? And so I'm glad I get people thinking. That's my job. I may be an amputee, but I'm also a therapist, and so I always like to get people to think. So the next clip is I'm going to show you the leg. So this leg is the one that got me the least amount of stares. It got more of a stare like something up with their knee. So this is the leg, and I'll show it off in the next clip. So this prosthetic looks like a real leg. and it was the prosthetic I wore before this one. And when I would wear that one out, I would get questions like, because when I have it on, you really can't tell I'm an amputee. And so people would say, oh, what happened to your knee? And then I'd have to say, oh, it's actually prosthetic, I'm an amputee. And the look, that was priceless. The look on their face, which was like, oh my God, I feel stupid. And I'm like, no, it's okay. It's okay. This prosthetic's kind of a trick. It looks like it's a real leg. That was one thing that was a little disconcerting about it. I felt bad for people because every time they would say, sometimes I just wouldn't even say it. Say, yeah, knee injury. If I didn't have time. But it was really super interesting that's my incognito leg when, I don't know, if I don't want to have any stairs. I haven't worn it in a long time though, actually. It's not as comfortable as the leg I have now. The one I have now is a little more dynamic. So anyway, so that's the scoop on stairs and staring. And video coming up soon will be about changing shoes. Can I change shoes, or what's that like? Because I actually miss that I don't get to really go shoe shopping much anymore. Just a little bit. My shoes have to be very practical these days. So this is my leg. This is my last one. Not the one I wear now, but this is obviously. I could be sitting right now without a leg on. This is my last prosthetic, and it looks like a real leg. That's the one that I'm talking about. And so here it is. Here's the prosthetic that's a little bit of a trick and looks like a real leg when it's on. Like I said, it's not nearly as comfortable as my other one, so I don't wear it. But as you can see from a distance, it looks like a real leg, doesn't it? So there you have it. I showed off my my trickery leg, my trickery prosthetic, just to show you what it looks like. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll see you next time.